Good evening, everyone, and welcome to East Devon District Council's Cabinet meeting for the 30th of July 2025. I'm the Chair, Councillor Paul Arnott. Welcome to anyone watching the meeting via live streaming. We'll now start with a roll call of committee members here present, and please declare any interest at the same point. Debbie, please.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, I've been upgraded massively, as you can see. I've obviously skipped to change that name. Good evening, councillors. Let's start with yourself, please, Chair. Councillor Arnott.
Present and no interest, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Councillor Sam Hawkins, please.
Present and no declarations of interest.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward, who's acting as Vice Chair this evening. Thank you.
Acting up, I love that. Present, no declarations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I see Councillor Hookway this evening?
Good evening, Present. I'm declaring agenda item 9 as I'm a member of Exmouth Town Council and Devon County Council for Exmouth Litlam. Okay.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Sarah Jackson. Good evening.
Good evening. I am here and no declarations.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jeffries.
Present and one declaration for item 7, I believe an ORI, as I'm the chair of the East Devon National Landscape Partnership.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Young. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening. I'm here and no declarations.
Thank you. Councillor Ledger. There you are.
Good evening. I am present and no declarations for me.
Thank you. I don't know why I'm so surprised to see you. Councillor Olive. Good evening.
Good evening, Debbie. I am here and I have no declarations.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I know I'm not your usual cabinet compare. Haven't missed anyone, have I? Few. Okay. Are there any other councillors who are joining us tonight who have any declarations to make? Could you please, let's start with Councillor Hall.
Can I declare an ORI, please, for agenda items 13, 14 and 16 because of their strategic implications to the neighbouring local authority which I work for? I will have left before those agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Councillor Gazzard, I can see at the back. Hello, Steve.
Good evening, Debbie and everybody else. Could I declare an effects NRI for item 9? I am an Exmouth Town Councillor, but also a member of Exmouth's Motorhome TAF that had a lot of work to do with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, Brian Bailey.
Good evening, Debbie. I'd like to declare an RI for item 9. I'm the ward member for that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to your good wife, Aurora Bailey. Good evening.
Thank you, Debbie. I'd like to declare I'm an Exmouth Town Councillor as well for that item as well, please.
Thank you. Did I see another hand? Peter Faithful.
I'm not sure if I want to declare. It's item 8 because a parish council member regarding the transfer of assets or potential transfer of assets.
Because it's just a general report at this stage and we're not talking about specific sites, there's no interest you need to declare.
Mike.
Yeah, item 13, I'm a parish councillor and wasn't part of the neighbourhood plan group, but certainly involved with business and everything else.
Okay, I think, Chair, we're there. Thank you, and you are correct.
Thanks very much, Debbie. Item 2 is apologies, and I've received apology already from Councillor John Loudon, and Councillor Hayward has been kind enough to offer to take his place as Vice Chair tonight, but I don't know if you've received any other apologies yourself.
No other, unless any come from the floor? No, Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. These have already been done during our roll call. We can probably cross that one out, can't we, moving forward. Agenda item 4, public speaking. We've got Mr. Whiteley, statement from Mr. Cathro, Kevin Blakey and Steve Gazzard. So can I start off with Mr. Whiteley, please, on the ramifications of national landscapes on housing requirements and planning throughout the district? Mr. Whiteley, if you'd like to go to there, yep, and when you press the red thing, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you. Oh, okay, if you'd like to press the button on there so you get a red light, and then once you get going, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm indebted to the leader for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening on my concerns regarding the local plan. The local plan is a huge investment by the people of this district and may exceed £3 billion over the next 20 years. It is therefore right and proper that the plan is based on the correct principles from the start. Contrary to the claims I've received, there is no government target set for East Devon. The National Planning Policy Framework only suggests a methodology. Deviating from this method is allowed, but must be justified. It is vital that the authorities follow the NPPF correctly and employs the correct methods and the right scenarios, because the NPPF has been designed to deliver the correct national total by using the housing need. Other issues that need to be addressed include the lack of scheduling in the plan and infrastructure. But we must start here today. A consultancy, ORS, was tasked to do the work. The report was accepted without scrutiny by a suitably qualified person, namely a statistician. This has been confirmed by Mr. Freeman. The NPPF standard method was used for the whole district. Unfortunately, ORS did not account for the fact that 60% of the district lies within the national landscapes, and this latter area only accounts for 20% of the population. ORS should have separated the two data sets and applied the standard method only to the areas outside the national landscape, as the national landscapes have to follow the Countryside Rights of Way Act 2000, Section 87, Paragraph 2. When the correct methods are applied, the result could be 4,000 to 5,000 fewer houses required. To accommodate the extra houses, EDDC have been playing loose and fast with the Act. They have nibbled away at the edges of the NL and effectively redefined the borders. Neither district nor government are allowed to do this, as Parliament is sovereign. The NPPF is only government guidance, not law. This has been noted by both NL conservation boards, one of whose officers emailed saying, EDDC are not at liberty to redraw the national landscape boundaries. The designation is a national one, beyond the scope of the local councils and beyond planning. Normally, such a large investment by the community is simply not left to one consultancy agency without checking and very close scrutiny. Patently, this has not happened here. It seems to me that there is nowhere in the public consultation documents to specifically address the statistical and legal problem presented here, and I feel it is too important not to be brought to the attention of the whole council. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Whiteley, and just about dead on time as well. Unless Mr. Freeman or Councillor Olive are particularly minded to address any of your points now, and they may well not be. I don't think they're enthusiastic to do so. I'll talk to Councillor Olive afterwards as the strategic planning portfolio holder and see if we can come up with a written response to what you said today. Okay, thank you. And it may be, just fair warning, it may be that the council doesn't necessarily agree with what you're saying, but I just thought it was very important that what you're saying is heard. And of course, the next strategic planning, Councillor Olive then, thank you.
I thought it was just worth observing, Chair, Mr. Whiteley has already had a response in writing to these concerns from the relevant Assistant Director. I understand he's brought them to us today because he disagrees with the Assistant Director's conclusions.
And actually, that's fair enough. That's democracy, isn't it? So thank you, Mr. Whiteley, very much. Thank you. So we now go to our second public speaker. Let's go to Councillor Blakey next, please. Yes, okay. Kevin, are you happy to do it? I'm very happy for you to do it from where you were sitting, or if you're comfortable there, it's up to you, whichever you prefer. Okay, thank you, yep. Yep.
Right, thank you, Chair. I want to ask a question.
So just to say, obviously, this isn't Councillor Kim Bloxham. Have you, I should have just stuck with plan A. So have you logged in yet? Have you put your own little...
Yes, I have. Well, look at that. There's me now.
Your 3 minutes starts again.
Right. Well, with that good start, I want to ask a question about the programme called Wellbeing Cranbrook. At its last meeting on the 9th of June this year, the Cranbrook Placemaking Group considered an item on Cranbrook Place Partnership, which is the successor of the Sport England and Exeter Cranbrook Local Delivery Pilot. I think you can understand why they chose a shorter name. East Devon's new community manager has actually agreed, or had agreed, to send to the placemaking group members a copy of the job description for the community wellbeing and activity organiser. Secondly, also to clarify with the NHS whether or not they have funding available for the community connector role. And thirdly, to discuss the process with Cranbrook Town Council should they be minded to host Wellbeing Cranbrook. And all those items with a view to reporting to this meeting, this Cabinet meeting tonight, regarding the future of Wellbeing Cranbrook, but none of those actions have been progressed. I understand that people are busy, but things need to be delivered as promised. Cranbrook Town Council is keen to establish a local resource focused on providing services for young people. Cranbrook continues to be home to a much younger than average population. You'll all be aware of the demographics there. While at the same time, the town features a higher than average proportion of the population with socio-economic needs. For example, the Cranbrook Education Campus records 29% of its pupils as eligible for a pupil premium. That's across the whole campus, and it's actually split 32% secondary pupils and 26% primary. This compares with 25.7% average across England in 2024-25 of children who were eligible for free school meals. So you can see that there is a distinct need. The Town Council believes that because of Cranbrook's unique demographic, investing in the provision of services for young people will deliver numerous benefits as those children aged under 11 mature into young adolescents. By working with young people, services inevitably reach the young people's families and wider social connections. They deliver benefits beyond the immediate cohort. For information, one social housing provider has expressed an interest to the Town Council to contribute towards funding the youth role. However, the Town Council cannot progress this ambition in the absence of a resolution on Wellbeing Cranbrook, because of the unresolved question whether Place Partnership and or East Devon District Council funding might be available. So my question to Cabinet tonight is, quite simply, will you ensure that the promised information is sent to the placemaking groups, sorry, I beg your pardon, is sent to the placemaking group members without further delay, and ask for the overdue report to be provided in good time for the next Cabinet meeting on the 3rd of September, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blakey. I don't know if there's any officer who'd like to offer any reply to that immediately. If not, a written reply is absolutely fine. So we'll do a written reply to you on that, Kevin, definitely. Thank you very much indeed. Next, please, and from his current position, Councillor Steve Gazzard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak at short notice tonight. What I'm going to ask a question on is, I've only found out about it tonight, and it is in my ward, in Withicombe Riley ward in Exmouth. It transpires that in Burnside, Exmouth, there is a community hall which residents use, and it's in the ownership of East Devon District Council. It would appear that a decision has been made to dispense with this property. The rumour is that it's going to be sold to a charity, and a charity is going to run it, and then people who want to use it, as they do at the moment, it's well used, will have to pay for that facility. My question is, Chair, this council prides itself on openness and transparency. And why haven't the two ward members been advised? That's Councillor Matt Hall and myself. Why haven't we been involved in any consultation? And why haven't the members of the public that use this building been consulted? If you can't give me an answer tonight, Councillor Matt Hall and myself will be happy to have a written response, but we need to have an answer, please, sometime and somehow, because it is causing a huge distress to people that live there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gazard, very much for that. The relevant officer isn't actually present tonight, so unfortunately I wouldn't be able to give you a verbal answer, but Debbie will have recorded exactly what your questions are and will make sure you get a written answer as soon as possible. Thank you very much. So our final contribution as public speaking is going to be read by Debbie as our clerk, and it's from Mr. Robert Cathro, a statement regarding item 9 around motorhomes. So, Debbie, I hope your voice is warmed up and you're good to go.
Well, it is, Chair, but he has requested if I can read it out just before the item. So,
yes.
I may be building myself up here, but if we can just delay it until that item, I'd be
the
grateful,
tension
Chair.
builds. Right, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for that then. In which case we go to agenda item 5, which is matters of urgency. There is one matter of urgency listed under agenda item 14. Recommendation from the Strategic Planning Committee held on the 8th of July 2025. Agenda item 6, confidential or exempt items. There's one item to be dealt with in this way at agenda item 16. So we now go into some business, agenda item 7. Now I can't help thinking we haven't done anything about the minutes, have we, of the previous meeting? Have I skipped that? We have skipped that.
We've skipped, Chair.
And isn't it brilliant that only I
Never mind.
noticed, because I make these
You've
mistakes,
noticed
but
them
now
now.
I'm correcting them before somebody else does. Fantastic. In which case, I hope you've all had an opportunity to make study of the minutes of our previous meeting and are happy that they are correct. If nobody raises their hand, I will assume that is the case and duly sign them. Thank you. Thank you very much. We now do go to agenda item 7, the adoption of the East Devon National Landscape Management Plan 2025 to 2030. It's on pages 10 to 12 of your agenda and presented by Daniel Wynne, East Devon National Landscape Manager, with possible help from Charlie as well. Over to you guys.
Thanks, Chair. I would like to say a few words when Dan's finished. If that's okay, I'll pass over to Dan.
Good evening. So this plan is the result of 1.5 years of development involving a stakeholder consultation with over 40 organisations, businesses and community groups, and a 13-week public consultation where we received 158 responses, which marks a new record for us in terms of levels of engagement at this stage. The outcome of this was majority support for all 4 strategic themes within the National Landscape Plan and genuine enthusiasm for the new direction. That new direction is in large part come about as a result of the Protected Landscapes Targets and Outcomes framework. This has set new targets for protected landscapes to deliver the government's 30 by 30 and climate change net zero ambitions. The net result of this is renewed focus over the next 5 years on nature recovery, climate change mitigation and adaptation, and enhancing accessibility for all user groups. Now, there are numerous issues that will face us over the next 5 years. Climate change itself poses problems in terms of rising sea level, rising temperatures and unpredictable weather patterns. There's also reduced support for rural communities and the increasing isolation of some of those rural communities. There's a growing disconnection between people and nature, particularly in urban communities itself. And there's also increasing development and land use pressure both around the boundary and within the boundary of the national landscape. But there are also significant opportunities. Within the management plan, there are new objectives around habitat creation and woodland creation. This has great strategic alignment with the Council's tree, hedge and woodland strategy, as well as a nature recovery strategy, which is evolving right now, and the County Council's local nature recovery strategy. The new habitat will also sequester carbon. This will directly contribute to the Council's climate change strategy, but in addition to that, as a particular objective to be delivered by 2028, which we're hoping to do in 2026, which is to develop a climate mitigation risk assessment for the national landscape itself. This will identify the point sources of emissions, within the protected landscape and any actions that can be taken to reduce those emissions. The objective is to get the national landscape itself to net zero, which will obviously contribute towards the council's climate target to be net zero by 2045. We also have new objectives to improve existing trails, but also to create new accessible routes and celebrate the local heritage, both that natural, historic and cultural heritage. There's really great strategic alignment here with the cultural strategy, and this is already happening right now with the National Landscapes Nature Calling Project working with the deaf community in Honiton to celebrate the area's local heritage in partnership with the Thelma Hubert Gallery. East Devon attracts around about 6.7 million visitors per year. It contributes approximately £350 million to the local economy. A good proportion of those will visit the national landscape as well. In our new plan, we have new objectives around promoting a local food economy, working with the farm facilitation group that we currently work with right now to connect local buyers to local producers to try and establish a local market there. We're also looking to enhance the natural assets, things like biodiversity and natural capital, and we're also looking to continue to support and grow and enhance green accessible tourism opportunities. So therefore, there's also really great strategic alignment with the tourism strategy as well. In conclusion, this new plan has been deliberately designed to have strong strategic alignment with all the council's strategies and plans, both at a district level and a county level, and through this synergy, we can ensure the collective success to deliver the council's corporate objectives. Last week, Devon County Council voted in support to formally adopt this new 5-year management plan, and so we're asking East Devon District Council to also support formal adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Daniel. And I was just about, when you said that, to declare an interest, because I was actually sitting at the Cabinet meeting when that was decided at Devon. So I think I'll just hand the item over to Paul from here on in, just in case. Do you think, Mel, is that, or can I?
Were you taking part in these?
I voted in favour of it at Cabinet at County. So,
That doesn't prevent you from taking part, because you can ultimately, as long as you take into account all of the information in front of you today, I suppose the only issue is, are you satisfied you can come to it with an open mind? If you can't, then I would hand it over to somebody else and leave the room.
I think if Councillor Haywood's kind enough to take the item on from here, I'll do that. Thank you very much, Mel.
So thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Going outside of Cabinet, are there any members who would like to ask a question, either of Cabinet or of... Oh, my apologies. Bear with me a moment, Councillor Goodman. Charlie.
Not taken personally, thank you, Vice Chair. I just want to be very brief. I just want to say it was about a year ago, or just over a year ago, that the Chair and the Vice Chair of the National Landscape Partnership and also the East Devon National Landscape Manager all stepped down from their roles pretty much at the same time. So I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to Dan, who on appointment picked up the whole management plan review process, which is very complex and time consuming from literally day one on appointment, and had to play catch up with DEFRA's timetable for the whole plan's production. So that's a massive piece of work that Dan's undertaken and shouldn't be taken too lightly in terms of the work that he's done. But also I'd like to thank Councillor Jeffries, who answered the call, or the bit of pressure to step up at very short notice to take on the role of Chair of the East Devon National Landscape Partnership, and also Councillor Rickson, who took on the role of Vice Chair of the partnership. The fact that we have a plan, and it's a really, really good plan, delivered within the DEFRA timescale, is a real credit to the work that Dan and also the support from Councillor Jeffries and Councillor Rickson have provided over the last 12 to 18 months. And we've caught up with all the other Devon national landscapes in that process. So it's no mean feat. So just to say a heartfelt thanks to those three individuals. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you indeed, and thank you for covering all the points I was going to say as well, Charlie. So, but no, I think everyone agrees, and thank you for doing that at such short notice, and for those members who have stepped up. So, coming back outside of Cabinet, I can see Councillor Goodman. You were the first to raise your hand.
Thank you, and thank you, Charlie. I can remember being in Cabinet when it was questioned whether you could actually achieve this in the timescales, and there was great debate. So, congratulations! It's a really good report. And there's just two minor things. with all the consultation.
Councillor Goodman, I'm so sorry to stop you in your tracks. Could you just bring the microphone slightly nearer to you? I know you're all sharing one.
Yeah.
Just you're a little bit faint. Thank you.
When I looked through, I couldn't see any summary of what the consultation people said. And I just wondered, should that have been in there? And the second thing, the excellent vision, etc. The first date when you're going to measure is 2042. I just wonder if something should be measured before 2042, because that seems a long time ahead. Nothing wrong with the plan, just two minor issues.
Yeah, so with the 2042 deadline, is that in relation to habitat creation? Because the government set...
East Devon National Landscape, page 4.
So the government set us long-term deadlines, which is a reason for those dates. They've come down directly from government, and the landscapes have to adhere to them. But within each of the strategic themes, you'll see the annual targets, and they've got annual measures of success. So it will be those that we'll report on, and obviously we'll endeavour to accelerate the process well beyond that deadline. And sorry, your first question was in relation to the summary of the consultation, is that correct? So there's a summary produced from the management plan consultation, which Commonplace Platform has sent out to everyone there. We can also provide a summary and make that public as well.
I might be a bit of an error. I just would like to see what they said, because you couldn't have done this report without some excellent contribution from those people that contributed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodman. Are there any other members outside of Cabinet who wish to contribute or ask questions? I can't see any, so we'll come within Cabinet. Councillor Jeffries, over to you.
Thank you very much. I think Charlie said everything before, but just a heartfelt thanks to Dan for getting it to this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak on this? Councillor Jeffries, as you've sort of led on this, would you like to propose that recommendation?
I would like to propose that recommendation, please.
Thank you very much, Dees. Do I have a seconder from members present? Councillor Young, thank you very much indeed. With no other speakers I can see, may I ask the members then to vote on the proposal as proposed and seconded, and as per the wording, that the Cabinet agreed to adopt the East Devon National Landscape Management Plan 2025 to 2030. All those in favour, please. I believe that's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll just recover the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. And thank you, members. Excuse me. So we now go to agenda item 8 on stewardship of public amenities on your agenda papers, pages 13 to 25, with a presentation from our Director of Place, Andy Wood. Andy, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the starting point for the report in front of you this evening was around how shared spaces, those public amenities such as play areas and parks, are delivered in conjunction with new developments coming forward in the district. And the acknowledgement that those are really a key determinant of the character and how successful those developments are. If you trace the history, if you go back, and it's difficult to pinpoint this exactly, but around 15 years ago, the council took a decision, alongside many across the country, not to adopt the ongoing management of those types of amenities going forward. And you can see in the report in the interim period, what's really come forward now is very much a private management regime, usually characterised by an estate rent charge and some form of private management company. Does that matter? Well, I think it's now very clear that it does. You can see in the report that the Competition and Markets Authority has looked into this issue. They have very clearly concluded that there is now demonstrable customer detriment in their terms that is arising from those arrangements, and not least because people are being perhaps unwittingly locked into very expensive, pretty unaccountable arrangements that they really don't understand when they purchase a house in the first place as well. So it is a significant concern. I think that those arrangements are arising. It's a particular concern, I would say, in the district, given we are a high growth district ultimately. As it's set out in the report, on the current trajectory of the local plan review as well, we may see a scenario where 20% of households are subject to that type of private management regime going forward in the fullness of time. And a concern, I suppose, from my perspective, that we could end up with a schism between, if you like, old and new East Devon. Certainly, I know we have Cranbrook members here this evening, and the experience of Cranbrook speaks to some of those challenges around transitioning from, if you like, the default model of a private management company to something that has, where A, is much more accountable in terms of the role of the town council in Cranbrook's case, but also delivers better value for money as well going forward, and has a greater social purpose as well. So that was the starting point. I think the other key dimension that comes into the report as well, it speaks to the kind of, if you like, the old East Devon part as well. Now, with the backdrop of future local government reorganisation, inherent financial challenges, I think there's also a challenge, if you like, to those more established regimes, and whether those can be sustained into the future as well, how we safeguard those precious assets that exist in parishes and towns across the district, and what action we need to be taking now in order to best secure the future of those assets going forward as well. So it's very much a kind of forward look in terms of development that doesn't currently exist, but how we make sure that the future management regime, serves the interests of future residents to best effect, but also now, thinking in the context of, say, LGR, and also the financial challenges around how we look at our existing assets across the district as well. So hopefully, Chair, within the recommendations, they cover all of those aspects, particularly around developing a new stewardship strategy, so we're explicit about our expectations. You can see reference in there to developing a charter mark, and the reason for that is that the CMA report really highlighted that people don't realise what they're buying into. They're obviously very excited by the prospect of, for example, getting onto the housing ladder, and they just don't realise what they're laying themselves in for ultimately. And therefore, something that really puts a stamp of approval, if you like, around how that regime would work for the benefit of communities going forward feels something we should be aspiring towards, but also the detail around that as well, around how we measure quality of life and the success, if you like, going forward of those measures. Finally, I think there's probably some tweaking required to the last recommendation, which would acknowledge the difference between two key holders here, or portfolios, sorry, in terms of the emphasis of the work. The first is around a portfolio holder group for the forward-looking elements, which very much relate to Councillor Olive and the planning regime. And the second, I suppose, is more around our existing assets, which obviously relates more to Councillor Hayward as well. So I think there's probably a bit of definition required between those two, Chair. But hopefully that package of recommendations will ensure that we get a sustainable and socially driven regime going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Absolutely thrilled. Typically progressive, forward thinking, exactly what this council have always wanted to do. It's an extra we're attempting to achieve for the public benefit, and I think it's absolutely suitable for you to, in a sense, pay tribute to the Cranbrook members who, ailed under another type of regime, so to speak, for many years, but have been very generous in offering up suggestions moving forward. So thank you, everybody. Going to any members from outside of Cabinet who'd like to... well, yes, Councillor Kim Bloxham, please.
Thank you, Leader. If you bear with me, please, because I've got a lot to say, as you would imagine, and it's quite detailed. But I welcome the report and recommendations, in particular recommendation 4, the proposal to establish a place infrastructure and strategic planning portfolio holder group to consider the approach. I'd welcome the opportunity to contribute to that group. There is a need to ensure that the views of the Cranbrook Placemaking Group are taken into account on this. This issue was last discussed at its meeting on the 9th of June, and the comments made then are not really reflected in this report. The views of the Placemaking Group do need to be routinely brought forward to the working group once formed. The report describes old and new East Devon and the disparity between the two, but it's more complex than that, and the levelling out management of public amenities is a much wider issue. Old East Devon benefits from East Devon services that are not available in New East Devon, yet the residents of New still contribute financially to the services provided to Old, whilst paying separately for the services in the New. I'm not trying to confuse you all with this old and new, but it is important. Residents of old can and do enjoy the amenities in new without contributing to their delivery. This gets particularly visible when the disparity is within a parish, and I think Broadclist is a good example of this. There's also the disparity between those in New East Devon who pay an estate rent charge and those who do not. For those who do not, they face a higher town or parish precept, but a lower overall cost compared with those who pay both precept and estate rent charge. I remain very concerned that Section 106 agreements that are in the pipeline for strategic development still include the option of a management company arrangement. Our experience is that it does not work on a large scale. Management companies are unrestricted, charge what they like, charge very high admin charges and have good profit margins before any funds are directed to delivering services. The experience in Cranbrook in 2018 was that the then management company had in excess of £90,000 admin charges in their annual budget. The quality of services was very poor, which certainly helped in allowing the town council to take over the public open space in the town. Cranbrook did have the support of the developers who were directors of Cranbrook Limited, the local management company. It is necessary to be clear when one talks about the management company. Where such arrangements apply, each development will have a management company formed. This is usually a company with a small number of directors, often representatives of the developer. That management company, in the case of Cranbrook, was Cranbrook Limited with 2 directors from the developers, then employs a company to manage the public amenities. In effect, this is a management agent, but they're often referred to as the management company, hence the confusion. Unravelling estate rent charge arrangements requires the cooperation of both the directors of the management company, management agents themselves, but of course the agents are not keen to lose this income. The comparisons in the report state that the precept in Cranbrook is around 3 times the average parish precept. Is this the national average, Devon or East Devon? Because it's not clear what is meant by that. Irrespective, I feel that that sort of comparison is misleading because it doesn't compare like for like. The reality in Cranbrook was that the town's council tax went up in 2018, but as a direct result of the move, most residents paid substantially less overall. Band D residents paid a total of £320.41, which was £88.65 precept plus £231.76 rent charge, prior to the cessation of the estate rent charge and £256.03 afterwards, which was a saving of over £64. But more important, the delivery of services came under local control and became fully accountable and transparent. We recognise that the option of East Devon reversing its decision of 15 years ago would be the most economical for residents, but that is not reality, especially with local government reorganisation on the horizon. No one realistically expects a unitary authority to pick up the responsibility for local amenities. This does place a focus on town and parish councils, and some may be reluctant to take on new responsibilities. But the stark reality is that if they do not, their residents will pay more. Even a CIC will be more expensive than local delivery through the local council. Cranbrook has shown that it's possible, and if towns and parishes across the district adopted a similar stance, the old and new disparity would be resolved. Perhaps LGR is the time to look at the role of town and parish councils and consider a new approach about what is expected of them in their new role as the only locally based authority. We're very concerned that there are some proposals for interim management companies whilst a community governance review is completed. Management companies are very difficult to unravel once established. There's no legislation that gives freeholders rights over their management company, and if the company does not cooperate, it's virtually impossible to make changes. We're experiencing just that in Cranbrook with regard to the small development off London Road, when both the developer and the management company are being obstructive to the suggestion that the town council takes on the modest POS in the development, something that is perfectly willing to do. I want to highlight the point in the final paragraph of the report summary about the fact that the context of the transition to a larger unitary council raises the question how to safeguard amenities in the future, including the relationship with parish and town councils. This is absolutely crucial and probably greatly lacking. A sustainable stewardship model for Cranbrook is wholly dependent upon a community governance review. Cabinet is fully aware of the concern in Cranbrook as to the lack of progress, especially when the planning team are finalising Section 106 agreements for an expanded Cranbrook, which risk the formation of management companies that no one in Cranbrook wants. The Town Council has demonstrated a willingness to take on local amenities, but this is dependent on the boundary review. As mentioned, I welcome the report and I trust that Cabinet will adopt the recommendations and provide a real opportunity to find a resolution to the questions raised in the report. It's not just locally the estate rent charge arrangements are seen as problematic. The Competition and Markets Authorities has concluded that proliferation is leading to significant customer detriment. Locally, we feel it's another national scandal yet to emerge, and East Devon has an opportunity to take a lead in responding. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kim, very much for that. You've obviously had something on your mind, haven't you, about that over the years? Yeah. But very, very seriously, two things that I'll offer just as comment. So first of all, the government are saying at the moment that they're not looking to push power or liability down to towns and parishes. So this is a surprise. This is in the last month or so. But the second thing I would say for the record is that local government reorganisation and whatever the new unitary we sit in the end, should, and I would urge you to make sure that it does, and officers as well, give the opportunity you need to have a look at a new, year zero, so to speak, and just, there's an opportunity there that perhaps might not be here right now in East Devon to turn the clock back 15 years. So I think keep that in mind, and I think that's something we should push as you continue to have these discussions. Really welcome the idea that you would be kind enough to sit on a portfolio group as well. I think that's absolutely critical, so thank you. Councillor Faithfull, please.
Thank you, Chair. With this portfolio group thing, have we any idea the timescale with things like asset transfer, what sort of timescale for conversations and things like that? Because we all know the theoretical timescale we have with the transfer to a unitary. Whether it's going to happen that timescale, I don't know. But it's just the way councils work, and you have to have this discussion, and then you transfer it back and forth, and it's all incredibly slow. So we need to have quite a strict timescale to be able to get this sorted out. So.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I think, were you present at the briefing that Andy and Tracy and others did yesterday? So the papers from that were excellent, but I don't know which covered LGR on the timetable on one thing, but it's about the medium-term financial plan. I'm not sure if we're ready to quite distribute that to all members yet, are we, Simon? Yeah. We are, okay. I think that's probably the best thing, Peter, to give you that timetable, because that's the best, vision of it we've got at the moment. Thank you. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to argue with Councillor Bloxham, because she knows a lot more about Cranbrook and the new towns than I certainly do, but certainly from the old East Devon, if I can say that, with Sidmouth. We're and again, I went to the meeting yesterday, BSCAT, whatever, and was concerned about the timelines. You're saying that there's going to be 6 months to report back to Cabinet just to have a chat about the best way we could do that. That seems unrealistic when we've only got, I think it's 17 months to do the whole lot if we're going to do anything, diverging things. So I just think I would ask if that can be, or certainly parts of it could be pulled forward so that we can start moving forward with the towns, etc., because otherwise we're going to miss the opportunity to do this. And much as you say that they're not recommending that town councils take on any extra things or pushing it down, to me, that's just common sense. And from what I see from Devon County Council, from what I'm told from people that have joined it, that, and I think yourself was the same, that times are hard there. You've got money to be spent on things, and they're not necessarily going to be able to give out the discretionary spending that perhaps they have in the past with the challenges that you have coming forward. So again, I just wonder if giving it 6 months to report back to Cabinet, and realistically that's probably going to be 7 or 8 months by the time we get it set up and going. I just think that we ought to be pulling that forward, or certainly to do with the divesting of assets to the towns and parishes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I get what you're saying, Ian. We need to really stick to this agenda item, which isn't necessarily a conversation about the timescales on local government reorganisations. So hear what you're saying.
It is in there, Chair. So
Sorry?
the 6 months is in there saying
It's in there. So
within 6 months.
Exactly. But so I suppose what we know is already in terms of the timescale is that there's limited parishes and towns until the next set of ideas go in at the end of November from all the councils, all the upper and second tier authorities. It's really hard to get the parishes and towns involved until what happens is a response from government saying, yes, that one is the one to go for. At that point, then there will be a statutory duty to consult, and I don't mean just some, little sort of something through the letterbox, to consult properly with all the towns and parishes on what comes next. And that should give a year and a half, 2 years to get that right. So there will be the opportunity there, but it's just not now. And the problem is, if we try to do it now, the whole system will melt down because we have to answer the questions that the government has asked us to answer. And they aren't asking us to answer questions about parishes and towns.
If I can, Chair, that's fascinating and very interesting, and I'm sure it's very true. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what they do, whether it's one great big unit, whether it's split into four, if they're taking the assets away from East Devon District Council and giving it to a larger unitary that has to find all this extra money for SEND and all the other things. Discretionary spending is the thing that they will target. They have to target. So again, given the opportunity and giving the facilities now for town councils to take on some of the assets that their residents feel so strongly about, we're talking about toilets, parks, gardens, things like that. That is the thing that at the end of this, we talk about legacy from East Devon District Council, but that is a legacy. And that's the only thing that people will remember us for. The rubbish will still be collected.
I suppose what the government is categorically saying, and said to me in person in Totnes 2 days ago, is don't deal with the parish and town issue now. Do that next. But I mean, there's good reason for that. There are legal reasons. There are any number of reasons. There are, as you know, there are parishes who are terrified that they'll have responsibilities landed on them they can't possibly cope with. There are other parishes and towns who are saying, gimme, 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 we'd love to do this. Right now is not the time to be doing that work. I'd love to do it now, Ian, but that's not what we're being asked to do. Peter, please.
Just trying to follow on from this conversation with Councillor Barlow. All parish councils, like every other council, has a window to plan their pre-seat for the next year. So if you miss that window for this year, then you have to put it all off for the next year, because most councils are going to have to substantially increase their pre-seat to be able to handle the extra workload. And I think that's the thing, that is the timescale I'm talking about. Is like you have that window, and if you miss it this year, then you have to put it off another year. You can't just chop and change your pre-seat.
Okay, I won't go into it anymore. Just to say, I'm sure there will be time to do that, but also bear in mind the government is signalling that at the moment they do not expect towns and parishes to increase precepts and take on extra responsibilities. They're saying that they don't want that to happen. Who knows where that plays out? Councillor Howe, please.
Thank you. I just want to add to Councillor Bloxham's excellent presentation. I actually say that there are actually going to be 3 groups of communities. There'll be the old, there'll be the new, and there'll be the caught in the middle. And that's what I'm worried about reading this report. That's not intrinsic in this report, and I believe the group and everything else that will form from this will hopefully come up with some good answers. But we do have to be mindful of what has happened over the last 15 years. What Cranbrook has achieved is great, but is not the norm. It is the exception and might set the standard for the new town, but we still have all these other smaller developments that have happened throughout our countryside and towns that are caught in that trap in the middle. and we have to be really mindful of that. And I suppose following Councillor Bloxham's offer, I also would be very interested in going on this group and trying to help and assist and drive this forward to a happy conclusion for everybody. Thank you.
That's very kind of you, Councillor Howe, and I'm sure that idea will be given generous consideration by, well, whoever it is who's running the group, which we'll find out in due course. Thank you. So, anybody from council? Yeah, well, we'll have to see. Won't we? I mean, it may be that there's a very strict proportional political proportion. Who knows? Right. So. Nobody else from outside of Cabinet, in which case coming to Councillor Hayward next, please.
Thank you. So for the public record, I think because of this, I'll declare an effects NRI in this item. I'm as affected as anyone else in my community who lives in a house which is subject to estate charges. I'm not any different to anyone else. And I don't believe that the recommendations in this mean I have to step away from it. I certainly echo Councillor Bloxham's points, and thank you very much for making them. Cranbrook is the exception, but could potentially be the norm. For anyone in the room who reads The Guardian regularly, and perhaps that there's a subset of this council that doesn't read The Guardian very often, but if you get a chance, you can read it online. There was a very interesting article about this just a few days ago. So it's worth reading, even if you don't subscribe to that newspaper's point of view. It's very factual and evidence-based. So I've made my declaration. I live in a property. So I'd just like to share, and this echoes what Councillor Bloxham said. So if we go back to 2023, the estate charges where I am were £185 per annum. So that's a surcharge on residents, £185 per annum for their estate management. Now, Axminster Town Council's precept, our part of the precept, to run an entire town, and East Devon runs an entire district. So just to run the town was £103. So nearly just about half as much. Of that £185, which equated to a bill of £58,000 a year, 41,500 was administration. So that was simply the cost of running the scheme. Bank charges, accountancy charges, yes, they're all charges, but still that's 71% of the cost to every resident was administration, which is £132 a year, still more than the entire precept for the town council. There were some health and safety fees, nominal, about 1%. The actual grounds works, and bearing in mind that that's to cut grass and cut hedges. There are no play areas, there's no sports pitches, there's no benches, grit bins, dog bins, waste bins, notice boards, nothing. It's simply cutting grass. And that equated to £50 a year. So within that was £2,100 for postage. Now, there's only 300 properties, or 313, so that's about £6.82 a year of postage, and we get one letter in a DL envelope with one single piece of paper. So, you know, I don't recall it being Basildon bond quality and delivered by a courier, but again, it comes back to Councillor Bloxham's point. They can charge what they want, when they want, how they want, and everyone is a hostage to it. You have no choice. And this is why I'm delighted this has come forward. There are other estates in Axminster where there are play areas provided, but they're almost in the point of dereliction because no one manages them, no one looks after them. East Devon takes it seriously. My town council takes it seriously. Cranbrook takes it seriously. Every community here that manages their facilities makes sure they're usable, they're safe, they're maintained, they're clean, they're tidy. And unfortunately, this is not happening. So I am delighted, really am, that this is coming forward. I appreciate half of it is about the future and a bit of it is about what other communities have inherited. And then the final part is the community asset transfer point. And I take the point of Councillor Barlow, Councillor Faithful. The report does say within 6 months, not in 6 months. And until, of course, it's resolved and passed, then effectively, you can't really say what will happen because we've got to form it if it's resolved today. And I don't want to predetermine that vote. But I am genuinely enthused that we are considering this for the point that the chair has raised, because it sets puts a line in the sand that we are serious. And even if every other town community in the UK ignores it, we won't be. So I would, going forward, Chair, would be happy to propose this subject to that clarification after debate on item 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayward. Going to Councillor Jeff Young, please, next, and then to Councillor Olive. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Chair. I first came upon this unfairness of this issue in my first term as a councillor. Why did my ward not have any district council play areas, sports pitches and other locations did, predominantly towns? My parish precept pays for these parish facilities, and they're really good, and my general rate pays for some of the town's play areas, sports fields and gardens. That's known as double taxation, and I don't think it's fair. Then I became responsible for street scene, and I got introduced to the saga of the Cranbrook litter bins and the Cranbrook Country Park. Thank you, Councillor Bloxham and Councillor Blakey. To cover the costs, Cranbrook Town Council precept is larger than most other precepts. This is where I realised that the provision of these open spaces for public benefit, we were merely agreeing to a planning applications stage, is only going to end up in trouble, in double taxation and being perceived as unjust in the long term. So I've been banging on about having a level playing field since then, excuse the pun. So we have a mix of management companies serving some estates, precepts on others, and because of the inheritance from the old urban councils, some get their play areas, parks and gardens paid for by their district. There is a massive imbalance, and now we are heading for unitary, and we are going to shake everything up, and if we are not careful, end up with more anomalies if we're not careful. Another example being closed churchyards, which, because of a quirky old law when the churchyard becomes full, it's passed from the diocese to the district council for maintenance and upkeep, and there's massive costs in that. But one council has managed to overcome this by applying a separate charge to the rates of parishes with these closed churchyards. So there are ways and means to overcome these unfair anomalies. That's why when we started to discuss the management of our large open spaces in our new town, I said we need a total rethink, hence this report. But because of unitary, it's got even more complicated. So I welcome this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. I could match you blow for blow. Colleton, nothing. We get there, but anyway. But funnily enough, it has a sort of quite innovating effect on the community, doesn't it? You know, fundraising and all that stuff. So I would want to re-stress, as I did earlier, look at, please, because let's face it, most of us don't know yet what on earth unitary is going to be. Look at this as an opportunity to try and, I won't go as far as to say harmonise, but there's no point us talking about this tonight, becoming fully aware of it, starting to develop a strategy without then pushing that hard into the new unitary in its interim period while it's being set up. So that would be a firm, recommendation of mine. Councillor Olive, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think perhaps in light of what you and Jeff have just said, I need to declare that I do have an East Devon play park in my ward. So guilty as charged on that front. Sorry, Jeff. A lot of what I was going to say this evening has already been said, so I won't repeat that. And I'm grateful to those members who've offered to share their experiences as part of this process. I know, speaking on behalf of myself and Andy, that will be very welcome. One thing I did want to highlight, though, that was brought to mind by Councillor Hayward's example just now about dealing with who cuts the grass on his estate, is that when it comes to private management companies in new developments, it's about an awful lot more than just who cuts the grass. Shortly after I was appointed as portfolio holder last year, I was invited by Councillor Bruce to come and speak to and listen to some residents in Fennerton, in his ward, who live in Ackland Park, where they're subject to management company arrangements, and where their roads are unadopted and so are their sewers. So those residents are now stuck, having bought those homes with an unadopted road, with an unadopted sewage system, and would be are effectively held to ransom, having to fork out hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, to bring that road to an adoptable standard, to get those sewers up to an adoptable standard, to get them taken on board by the public authorities. This is much, much bigger. Not to demean your example, Councillor Hayward, this is an awful lot bigger than just who cuts the grass. And as you've said, Leader, we have a real opportunity here, not only with centralisation and local government reorganisation, but also with the emerging local plan, for us to do something genuinely transformative, and with a real element of leadership there, given that the government has effectively declined to date to bring any new primary legislation, responding to the CMA's report that Andy mentioned. That's all I really wanted to say, I think. So I'll finish by seconding Councillor Hayward's proposal, and I have an altered wording for recommendation 4 as part of that, if I may.
We'd love to hear it,
Chair.
Councillor.
Just to highlight what Andy was saying about the distinction between the sort of forward-looking stewardship of public amenities in new developments across the district, and the I hesitate to say backwards looking, but contemporaneously looking maybe, sort of elements that come with the more of the assets and economy side. So my suggested wording there, Chair, and I will email it to you, Debbie, so you have a note, is to replace the wording for recommendation 4 with supports the establishment of a place infrastructure and strategic planning portfolio holder group to consider the council's approach to the stewardship of public amenities in new developments across the district, and an assets and economy portfolio holder group to consider the future of the council's existing assets in the community in light of local government reorganisation, with both groups to bring an initial report back to Cabinet within 6 months. Thank you,
That
Chair.
seems to cover it. Councillor Hayward, does that reflect your understanding as well?
Absolutely, in full agreement with that, Chair.
So the proposer and the seconder are happy with the amended 4th recommendation. Cabinet, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? So none against, none abstaining. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you, Andy. We now go on to agenda item 9, the Exmouth motorhome parking overnight stopovers on page 26 to 49 of your agendas. And we begin with Debbie reading out Mr. Robert Cathrow's statement first. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a statement from Robert Cathrow, who is an Exmouth resident. Dear Chair and Cabinet members, I submit a brief statement to make these key points regarding camping in Exmouth. It is much less than 3 minutes long. Let's see how quickly I can read it. The details are in 2 notes sent to all Cabinet members earlier this week, together with a selection of photos. We have arrived at uncontrolled camping in the town's car parks and on the highways because of a poorly planned and very poorly executed trial, supposed to run for 2 years, but now in its 8th year. With some very considerable bias in favour of camping shown by the Exmouth Town Council TAF, exacerbated by an absurdly promotional consultation wholeheartedly in favour of more camping that committed several errors of fact and in data collection, we now have the decisions put before you. As the intent is clearly to encourage more camping in the town, I now respectfully ask that EDDC, together with Devon County Council and Exmouth Town Council, please manage the activity so as to eliminate the numerous significant displays of poor behaviour that residents witness daily all year. The note that was sent round to Cabinet members to car park manager document that you've been sent lists the steps that need now to be taken based on discussion with around 95 residents. If the council sees fit to start to address the problems highlighted by implementing the suggestions, then the situation should steadily improve. There are, however, still a lot of unanswered questions and missing details which unscrupulous campers, and there are quite a lot of those, will exploit. Over to you to get it right, please. And that's from Robert Cathro, Exmouth resident. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Beautifully delivered, if I may say so. So I think there was an idea perhaps that one of the portfolio holders might be introducing this. So over to Councillor Sam Hawkins, portfolio holder for finance, who's fortunate enough to have parking also now in his portfolio.
Thank you, Chair. Let's see if I can do as good of a good job of reading as Debbie did there. So there are two parking areas that these changes relates to, Mere Road and Queensdrew Echelon. These are currently the only car parks in East Devon where motorhomes can park overnight. This subject was first considered by Cabinet in January 24, at which point it was recommended that public consultation was carried out on the proposed improvements. The consultation has now been carried out with respondents overwhelmingly supportive. The purpose of the improvements is to encourage responsible, safe tourism and better manage and enforce the overnight stopover arrangements. The proposed improvements have been endorsed by Exmouth Town Council and were considered by the Overview Committee this month. The recommendations in the report today are those as advocated by Overview, with the committee supporting a reduction in the number of nights that vehicles can stay to 48 hours and a further increase to the overnight parking charge to £20, with £5 of additional revenue from each transaction ring-fenced to provide dedicated additional enforcement of the overnight parking restrictions. Unfortunately, the need for additional facilities and management has been brought about by the irresponsible and inconsiderate behaviour of the few. However, the improvements will benefit all motorists who wish to stop overnight by creating a safer and more welcoming environment with dedicated wastewater disposal points and fresh water to replenish onboard reserves. Improved signage and ground markings will make it simpler for motorists to know where and how to park, as well as making it easier for our enforcement team to identify those who do not adhere by the regulations. It was proposed by the Overview Committee and the proposed overnight stopover arrangement should be subject to an annual review if approved. And I'd like to just thank Richard, the TAF, the Overview Committee, Exmouth Town Council and all members of the public who have been involved in the process to get us here we are tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll recommend it.
Yes, very good. Almost with your dying breath. What a way to go. So anybody from outside of, yes, Councillor Faithful, and then, right, actually, before I come to Councillor Faithful and Councillor Bailey, can I come to the Chair of Overview, who you've mentioned, Councillor Anne Hall first, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief, but we had in Overview these recommendations to come before you. It reflects a very good debate by members and an informed look at the policy for Exmouth Mere Road and the Queen's Drive Echelon. I hope you agree that the overview scrutiny has added value to this divisive subject, but we feel we have listened to the residents' concerns and have tried to mitigate them as best we can. I just wanted to highlight that we have listened and we have put in extra mitigations on it, especially a yearly review to be carried out by the appropriate scrutiny committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall, and thank you to you and all of the Overview Committee for your long-standing, persistent work on this, so thank you very much for that. Coming then to Councillor Faithful, please.
Thank you, Chair. Taking on board what the resident has been saying, on a normal campsite, you will have a campsite manager and supervision and things. What do we have to, in a form of supervision, to oversee what goes on our campsite while all this is happening? Because normally you've got a manager, you've got a problem, you can deal with it and you kick them out if you need to. What have we got in that form?
Thank you. So
I mean, primarily, we're not operating a campsite, and I don't think we intend to. It's merely for people to park their vehicles and stay within them overnight. So we have our officers, our car park enforcement officers that monitor the areas in which these vehicles are parked, and we've also tasked the antisocial behaviour officers that patrol Exmouth to sort of carry out some supplementary enforcement and observation of the rules and restrictions. But the recommendations that are contained within this report are to improve those, is to improve all elements of the overnight motorhome parking offer. So that's the actual facilities as well as the management and the enforcement of that area. So it is a identified weakness within the current operation and something that we need to improve, which is why the recommendations are here today.
Thank you, Richard, very much for that. I think it was Councillor Brian Bailey next, please.
Thank you, Leader. This is in my ward. It's also in Councillor Nick Hookway's ward. We may have differing opinions, but I can just say from speaking to the residents at length about this, a lot of the residents of Douglas Avenue in the associated area are not content. I understand that Exmouth Council are content, and I understand that you probably will be, but I feel the need to raise the issues that haven't been mentioned here before. The problem seems to be there's a lot of litter, and there's also barbecues which are being lit, which, considering most of these camper vans have got compressed gas in them, you know, is a potential fire risk, and it could be exceedingly dangerous. Now, I take Councillor, Peter's point. Who's going to manage it? Because it's too late. Someone's got a barbecue, there's a gas leak, whoomp, up it goes. You know, there's no one there to look after the people. It's very, how can I say, lackadaisical, for want of a better expression. There's no administration as such. If East Devon were to go into the campsite business, it's fine. But this seems a halfway measure. It's neither one thing or the other. And also, there are great concerns as well about putting these vans on the estuary car park, which was a proposal at one time. If that were to happen, there would be nowhere for the 8 or 10 coaches that we've got in Exmouth at the moment with foreign students, and there'd be nowhere for the 10 to 15 tankers that come regularly from South West Water to work on the Mayor Road. I see you take my point, Chair, and you were there in this very car park we're talking about when it was full of tankers not so long ago. So it's not cut and dried. It's a very flexible situation. So it's not if, it's when the sewerage system fails yet again, do we wake up all these campers and say, on your bike, you can't come here? You know, it doesn't seem very sound altogether to me. So thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, so I suppose the point it would be, we do know that South West Water are repeatedly tankering into there, and we have some form of communications from them, don't we, when that's happening? It's quite hard to know what we can actually do about that, Richard. Are we kind of proactive when we know that's happening, or do we just have to go, it's happening?
Well, in response to the emergency works, if it's declared as an emergency, they have a legal power of right of entry into the car park, so there isn't anything that we would look to do to stop them, but we do work with them to make sure that they're operating safely and that their operations contained and that they're keeping people safe. So that is something that we do proactively, and I think engagement with South West Water has improved considerably over the past 12 months, and they are much more proactive in sort of letting us know what they're doing and when they're going to be using the car park.
Brilliant, thank you, Richard. For those watching online, forgive me, I forgot to introduce Richard Easthope, our parking services manager, just in case anybody was wondering. So, Councillor Rickson next, I think, and then Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to raise a question about other areas which also experience problems with camper vans. And I'll particularly mention that in Sidmouth, we sometimes, during Folk Week, find that people do come along with their camper vans. They can't find a site at the Bulverton Road area, or they haven't pre-booked kind of with the rugby or the cricket club, so they park on the road. And I have heard instances of the owners of these vehicles emptying their waste down the drain, which is destined for the surface water. So is there anything we can do about this antisocial behaviour as well?
Okay, Marianne, thank you for that. Have you had a chance to notify Richard about that yet, other than now, or is it something?
It's a Devon County matter. It's on the public highway, Chair.
It's public highway.
It's a Devon Highways issue that needs to be reported to.
Okay, Marianne, if you, can we have a chat about this afterwards then, and I'll see if I can get it raised with Dan Thomas at County. Thank you. Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, firstly, can I say that I did attend the overview committee when this came up last week, along with the chair of Exmouth TAF. We both spoke to the committee, and I was really impressed with the way that the overview committee worked, the questions that were asked, and the way that they debated it, and the way that they came up with a few minor alterations to the recommendations. Bearing in mind, Chair, that this has been going on for nearly 9 years now. There comes a time, isn't it, when you've got to do something about it. And yes, it's right what some councillors say. We are getting a greater influx of camper vans, but Exmouth is open to camper vans. We can't stop them coming. So the easiest way is to try and facilitate what they require. And this was always the site that was recommended in the beginning, 9 years ago. Although it did move on to somewhere else, but it's come back to the Mayor car park. And in my view, that it's the right place for it. I just hope, Chair, that Cabinet will endorse it tonight and that we can get on and we can get it done, because it's something that is desperately needed. And that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard, for your local knowledge. And for more, Councillor Matt Hall, please.
Thank you, Leader. And, for the Cabinet, if they didn't have a chance to watch the recording of the Overview Committee, you might find this helpful. As a committee, I think we were never going to be in a position where we could please everybody. You know, this started off as a 2-year project, and that has well and truly bolted and gone away. We are where we are. We find ourselves in a situation where, particularly since COVID, the ownership of camper vans, the hiring of camper vans has somewhat gone through the roof. Meanwhile, the provision of facilities in the area have perhaps not kept pace. What we are finding is that at this precise moment that there are a number of camper vans that use residential roads, which is deemed obviously to not be appropriate. There are incidences, I've not witnessed this, but I've been told this, that their waste has been poured down the street drains. We've had incidences along the echelons on the Exmouth seafront where waste has been poured onto the Mayor. You know, we find ourselves in a situation where we need to provide something that addresses that, because there is just no way that we can stand on the outskirts of Exmouth and turn around camper vans. We can't do that. Even if tomorrow we said, no, we're not going to allow camper vans into our car parks, what stops one turning up at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night when enforcement have finished? You know, this is not necessarily an ideal solution, but it is a solution that will hopefully address some of the issues which are being created along the seafront and in those roads around. We tried through, as the Chair was saying, to put in some things with the recommendations so that scrutiny will look at whether, 3 nights is still appropriate. Does it need to be reduced? We put in about ring fencing, what is actually, proportionately a substantial increase in the charge, with the directive to Richard and the team to provide extra types of enforcement that would help, hopefully, to alleviate some of the issues that local residents were seeing and witnessing. this isn't a fail-safe, but I do think this is a far better solution than the current situation, and I really do hope that you all support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hall. For the benefit of those watching online who don't know that the mayor is a lovely sandy spot in Exmouth, we should clarify this isn't the mayor of Exmouth who's having waste poured on their heads. Okay, just to be clear for the record. I'm still outside Cabinet, so Councillor Barrett, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of clarification. On page 31 of the report, 4.2, final bullet point, it says increase the overnight stopover fee to £15, currently £11 per night. The recommendation actually says 20. So if you go to the recommendation, recommendation G is to increase the overnight stopover fee to £20 a night. So can we just have clarification as to what is in fact intended, please?
Yes, thank you, Chris. Richard, please.
So, yeah, the £15 was the recommendation that was taken to overview, which was subsequently amended to £20. So that's, yeah, so that was still in there as an original recommendation, but it's since been amended.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Never off duty. Always well done. Thank you. Councillor Roy Collins, sorry to have not called you earlier. I missed your hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. On the 28th of June, or Saturday, I went to Exmouth with Peter Faithful. I spent 10 hours there looking round. We wanted to see a number of different things in Exmouth. And we went, one of the biggest problems was for me finding somewhere to park. There was no parking for me. I had to drive my van onto a grass verge to be able to park in one of the car parks there. And we went to Mere Car Park, and all the coach places were full with these motorhomes. Some of them had little cars behind them. They've got hitches, pulled cars behind them. But I think that there's no other district council, maybe Teignbridge might do a little bit to it. There's no other council in Devon, and certainly Dorset don't. They don't do anything, provide facilities for these motorhomes. So if you provide these facilities, you're just going to have like a magnet there, and everybody, the word will get round, and everybody will be wanting to go there and use these facilities, because I feel they're so cheap what you want to provide. And last week, I did look at a motorhome. It was a converted Ford Transit van, and when you walk round the outside of it, there was no clue to it being a motorhome, but when you looked inside, you saw a little cooker and a little shower and a toilet then inside. So if that could park up literally anywhere, and you wouldn't know it was a motorhome. Also, I do like to go out of a weekend, and very often I'll travel back from either Exeter or Yeovil. And when I look at the lay-bys, you'll generally find there's one motorhome in most of the lay-bys, plus a lorry or two which are sleeping there for the night. I mean, it's a real problem for people to find somewhere to stop. And I understand that there's only the nearest site to Exmouth for motorhomes is at Chute. That's the only official site. Well, that's a long way from Exmouth. You be very careful when you vote in a minute, because you could be bringing yourselves in loads of trouble in the future. Thank you.
No, it's a tricky one, Councillor Collins. Like you, when my wife's watching television, I browse motorhomes. It's my kind of, I really do. And I know I'll never have one, but if you want to know which ones to get, I can help you. The one that's the back of a transit van isn't on my shortlist, I have to say. But now, so Councillor Hall, Councillor Matt Hall, I think wanted to come back in, or no, that was right. So we now come into Cabinet. We come to Councillor Ledger, please.
I think Councillor Hawkins said it so eloquently at the start. I'll just happily second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hookway.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as a fellow ward member, this car park has been a very sensitive issue for a number of years for a whole range of issues. We've had all sorts of demands placed upon this car park. It is a very important park. Most of the time it is very flexibly used, but when it's very busy, it is an overflow car park. And that needs to be remembered. It is important to understand that all we're offering are overnight stays. If people with their vans want to go into a campsite, they can literally go around the corner in Mare Lane, and there is the Pratt Sayers campsite. And one of the things we need to be very careful of is that we don't undercut that campsite in terms of its business, and that's why I think the £20 nightly charge is a very sensible one. There's also been lots of interest and controversy about South West Water. The Mayor Road parking pumping station is a very much a sensitive point. Also, of course, we have Littenham Brook running through that car park on the eastern end, and there has been concern that some campers have been tipping wastewater into the Littenham Brook, which then goes straight onto the beach. And for that, I would like to add an additional recommendation, Chair, if I may, because I am concerned that we need to be seen to be doing something to protect Littenham Brook for any adverse pollution. And so the recommendation would read, for reasons of safety, because the brook is completely unfenced, children, dogs, people under the influence could easily fall into it. So for reasons of safety and to prevent pollution of the Littenham Brook, that a fence is erected at the eastern end of the Mayor Road car park. The design and installation to be decided by the portfolio holder for environment operational in conjunction with officers. And if I could have that recommendation added, Chair, I would be very grateful. I also just want to add to comments. I'm very grateful for all the comments that I've made. We do have an issue with parking. I think any tourist town will have an issue with motorhomes. I'm keen to hear the issues of Sidmouth. Exmouth has a well-known reputation for being a water sports centre. A lot of people go onto the beach and take their vans and bring their kite surfing or whatever. We have to provide something. I think these recommendations are actually a very good starting point. I'm particularly pleased to see a recommendation that a yearly review is carried on so that we actually make sure that we keep a very close watch on this and we listen to residents and to make sure that we are providing an effective and acceptable facility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'll second it if need be as well, yes.
Yes, I think we've got quite a lineup. So can I just come to Simon Davey, our 151 Finance Officer, just about your recommendation, and which comes at a cost.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me in, because I was going to ask to come in. Can I ask the question for you, Chair, in terms of talking to officers over the cost and the feasibility of fencing, has that been discussed, and have we got a figure we can put into the recommendation as a budget?
Councillor, you?
Very, very rough cost was £30,000.
So I would say, just helping the 151, so I certainly wasn't aware this was coming forward as an extra £30,000 unbudgeted in this financial year recommendation. I think we need to find another way of thinking about this rather than just doing it tonight, although our finance portfolio holder may have the answer.
I just wonder if we had to explore the cost of somewhere in that sentence.
Is that okay, Nick, if we explore the costs rather than commit to start putting
Yes,
it up
the
tomorrow?
funding for all these new facilities has come from the funding that was set aside for the Estuary Motorhomes project, which is now not taking place. By my very quick reckoning, there's £88,000 left over underspend, which should be able to be used for this fencing. I'm not asking for anything gold-plated, but just a safety fence that keeps people away from the brook.
Can we, but Councillor Hawkins' suggestion is helpful. Can we explore it rather than commit
Yes,
to
okay,
definitely
yeah.
spend it? Thank you very much. Richard Eastoke, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, I was just going to. Yeah, no, I was just going to provide us a little bit of clarity on that cost. There was a few numbers floating around when we got the initial quote, and I think the cost for a fence is looking at 5,000 to 6,000. So that was probably a bit more reasonable for a fence. I think, yeah, better than 30,000.
Yes, exactly. I don't know if hookway fencing was going to apply for the job. I don't know, but so now there's Councillor Jeffries and then Councillor Young. Councillor Jeffries, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just listening to the concern around the price point for this at £20. I picked up Councillor Collins' thing about there not being a near campsite, and I think Councillor Hookway mentioned Pratt Hayes. In August, I've just done a quick search on that, and a camper van spot is £34 a night. So we'd be undercutting the local campsite. And if then that's just a basic thing. And I don't know whether we've got any restrictions on the number of adults that are staying in that camper van or the number of dogs. But if you add a few more adults and a couple of dogs to the maximum, the camper van charge at the local campsite is nearly £50. So I'm concerned, especially if that's at a time of year and we haven't got dynamic pricing, and the not competition, because we don't want to be in competition with local campsites, as it were, is charging that. Are we creating the lowest cost option? And in line with Councillor Collins saying, are we encouraging more people to end up in that part of Exmouth as the lowest cost option at the busiest times of year?
So that would have been an excellent contribution to the overview committee, if I may say.
I apologise for not being the overview committee.
So, I'm going to do Councillor Haywood next, and then Councillor Young.
So, following up from Councillor Jeffrey's point, I think there needs to be the distinguishment, if that's even a word. Let's distinguish between campsites have a range of amenities. It's referred to in the report. They have electrical hookups. They have showers, they have other things. And that is something what you're paying the extra for. As someone who is shortly going to go mooching around the north of Scotland in this, yes, I've done my research and I prefer to have a site with those amenities and I'll pay accordingly. Others are happy not to have those things and they might find this quite attractive. I think it will be buyer's choice. Your point is entirely well made, and the report does say that when we look at phase 2, it's potentially that we could add in extra facilities, add electric charging, add showers, and at that point a different pricing regime could be considered, and indeed it may well be in the 12-month review via a scrutiny function that we do have, to use your phrase, dynamic pricing, because why should local authorities be different to what the market does? We are here to provide the best value we can. I'm sure Councillor Young will have a view on this, but I think it's a point well made, but the facilities that are proposed at the moment are pretty much your basic low end. You can't really do much more than that. You have to provide that, but it is basic in the extreme. They are, I suppose, the equivalent of a roadside air in continental Europe.
This reminds me, for reasons that Councillor Haywood understands, that Councillor Fernley also offered her apologies tonight, and so did Councillor Beth Collins. Sorry, it's coming from the back of my head. I've done 10 miles on Dartmoor today. I'm hardly conscious. So thank you. Richard, do you want to come back on that briefly?
Just to come back for a little point of clarification, I didn't do the not electric hookup on that. So I think the electric hookup on that campsite is even more on top of that. Can't see details on whether there's showers, but that is the most basic option available locally as a comparison. And as you mentioned Scotland, I couldn't help but I didn't want to turn to a massive discussion about camper vanning, but knowing people in Scotland and the North Coast 500 and the precipitation of encouraging one thing and then ending up with another issue after that, I don't think it'd be remiss not to mention that they've had to go through a consultation on a tourist levy to provide infrastructure for such things, which again leads us to a not ideal situation in Scotland, where I think the consultation was early this year, and it looked at imposing a levy on all tourists staying in accommodation, which would be levied on them.
However, this council is not flying that kite. I just want to make very clear to any journalist watching this, we're
Absolutely
not talking
not.
about a tourism levy.
No,
to say
I wouldn't be advocating that either. It's just the unintended consequences of providing facilities for a certain type of tourism, which then leads in future to a difficulty in how the local authority deals with that as an issue.
Okay, thank you, Richard, very much, very thoughtful. Councillor Young, then, to bring us home.
I was around when this was first mentioned 9 years ago.
Right, but
yeah,
cutting
I'm
to
still
the
against
present day, if we can come to the present day.
And the reason why it was introduced, or why the trial was put in, was because Devon County Council Highways were asking us very heavily to try and do something to stop the parking on the highways, because local residents were complaining about camper vans parking outside their houses. And now that's the reason. We're providing ways of disposing of the waste, so environmental health issues are covered on that. I don't know if many people realise that the drainage on the seafront, the drains from the seafront go directly onto the beach. So if you empty anything in those, it goes directly onto someone who's sunbathing on the beach. So that is a really good reason why we have to provide something for all these camper vans that now come to the West Country now. I would like to see other districts and other towns possibly do some as well. I don't think we should take all of the southwest's camper vans, but it's a step in the right direction of trying to control what trying to provide for these camper vans that actually do come to Exmouth. And there's I counted something like 55 the other day, just along the seafront. Now there are hundreds, so we have to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Young. And Councillor Hayward's final contribution.
Thank you. It's just to come back, just for the point of clarity and veracity, because when we speak in these meetings, members of the public listen. So just to come back to Councillor Collins' point, I have just done a quick Google search. North Devon provides motorhome parking, South Ham provides motorhome parking, Timbridge provides some limited parking, so it isn't just East Devon. So I don't think we're just offering a target for East Devon and Exmouth in particular. I think there are other councils. Dorset does discourage it, but I think it's down to each authority to make a choice of what works for its economy, works for its infrastructure, and what facilities it can provide. So just to that point of clarity, Chair.
Roy, your finger is itching. I'll give you 60 seconds if you want to come back in.
What are you going to do when travellers and gypsies come along? We had them in Honiton in Elm Road not very many months ago, and East Devon had to go along and shoo them away.
Okay, so that is a different topic, but thank you for that. So I'm sure the Exmouth Tourism Board are grateful for the detail that Councillor Young just gave us about being careful where you sit on the beach. So that's it. We had a proposer, Councillor Ledgler. Did we catch a seconder? We did, Councillor Hookway, and indeed Councillor Hawkins. So
As duly as with the extra amendment.
yes, with the extra amendment, Debbie, did you pick that up?
Yeah, Chair, we need a seconder for Councillor Hookway's additional, but on the back of that also is how you want to clarify the cost element that you discussed. So if you are completely confident that the funds exist to cover the vastly reduced from 30 down to £5,000 or £6,000, or are you happy that you explore it?
Yes. So I think Councillor
that
Hookway
stage?
agree with that. I'm
Yeah,
happy to
and you're
second
happy
his
to accept that?
amendment. The proposers are happy with the amendment as well.
Explore
So
the cost and feasibility, Chair, if I may.
yes.
Cut across to
No,
you.
absolutely.
Simon, happy with that?
I'm more than happy with that. The only element being, if it, and it will result in a budget being required, and that will mean another report back and then council. So that will hold up.
We're happy to delegate to you, Simon, if you can find a budget for it.
So could we explore the costs and give a budget limit of £6,000 that could be met within the current capital programme? Something along those lines?
With delegated authority to yourself and to Sam, say? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Well, yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. To Simon and to Sam as portfolio holder of finance, should we make it 6? Yes, okay. Thinking.
That's a maximum.
Does that include VAT? No.
Normally not.
Okay, good. All right. Hey, no, just for cash. Okay, very good. Thank you. So I think we all understand what we're voting on. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. Thank you for Debbie and Simon for your help in that. Thank you, Richard. Right, a break? Well, if you're desperate, well, I suppose so.
Yeah, we've been going an hour.
Hour and 3, oh, it's gone so fast. Okay, in which case, I've been asked to, so could you all please come back in for 10 to 8, so 7:50. Thank you very much. So members of the public watching online, we're just now going to have a comfort break, and we'll be back at 10 to 8. Okay. Oh, are we saying goodbye to Councillor Richards? Okay. And Councillor Goodman, perhaps, I don't know. Are they coming back in?
I'm not sure, Chair.
No. Okay, very good, right. EDDC, so I'll just have to... Right, thank you everybody. Debbie, are we back online? We are. Thank you for your patience, for the many of you watching this from home. We now go on back to Councillor Hawkins again, I think, to introduce the Winter Parking Offer Review 2025. Just let Councillor Young's sort of almost haunted laptop stop yakking. Anyway, memories of Councillor Roy Collins there, actually, with his computer was... Right, Sam, over to you to introduce this item, please.
Thank you. Following a winter parking workshop that was held last summer and subsequent changes to the terms and conditions of the £2 winter offer, a commitment was made to review the winter parking tariffs this year. The £2 daily tariff has been available each winter between November and March since 2016, and when taking into account inflation, it is relatively much cheaper than it was first envisioned 9 years ago. For example, if the offer had risen by inflation each year, it would now be £3. Most Devon authorities now set the standard tariffs that are applicable all throughout the year and do not vary for the winter season. The recommendation of this report is that the existing winter offer is replaced by a new winter tariff that is 50% cheaper than the current summer charges, and that rises in line with any future inflationary increases to the summer tariffs. This change will continue to encourage seasonal shopping and exploration and accounts for the reduced demand in our car parks during the winter period. Other percentage options have been included with the appendices for members to consider. However, the 50% offer is broadly reflective of use of our car parks in the winter when compared to summer demand. With LGR on the horizon and the EDDC winter parking charges significantly different to neighbouring authorities, there is an opportunity to set winter charges to reflect use and demand on our car parking spaces and incentivise seasonal shopping trips that continue to benefit our towns and high streets. The current £2 offer has been oversubscribed in some locations, hence the restrictions that were introduced last winter. And although they were successful, this is an opportunity to simplify charges across all of our car parks and reduce the reliance on summer parking charges to subsidise the year-round costs associated with the management of our car parks and providing services. And therefore, I'd like to recommend the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hawkins. Coming to Councillor Burrup, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to say initially, firstly, I broadly support this report. Secondly, I have to declare a bit of an interest here because I'm a user of the Roxburgh Sidmouth car park winter rate. So I don't know how or what that constitutes, but I am a user of that. And if I bring the Cabinet's attention to Appendix 1, it shows proposed winter parking tariffs set at 50% of current summer charges. And if I direct you to Roxburgh, which is about halfway down that list, it shows that the charges indeed for 2 hours. However, I draw your attention to a press release by East Devon District Council. You said, and Devon District Council delivered on the 28th of October 2024. For £2 from Friday the 1st of November 2024 to Monday the 31st of March 2025, you can park for up to 4 hours in most short stay car parks, or up until midnight in all other East Devon District Council car parks. There are a couple of car parks in this list which do not now, with this proposal, allow parking for up to 4 hours. So could we ask for those to, I mean, almost all of them do permit it or have a day rate. Could we ask for the ones that don't, such as Roxburgh, Sidmouth and Blackmore Gardens, Sidmouth, to have a 4 hour or an all day rate, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm unsurprised to see Councillor Rixon's hand shoot up. I recall we had to have a special meeting, didn't we, during COVID, I think, about the Roxburgh car park. But Marianne, over to you.
The reason that Roxburgh has a shorter time is because it's the shoppers' car park, because Sidmouth has the fortune or misfortune, whichever way you look at it, to have all of its car parks, or the majority of its car parks, right near the seafront. So this was agreed that it should be a shopper's car park with short stay to encourage turnover, so that people would be able to go to the shops. That's the whole reason.
That is correct, and I can absolutely vouch for that. And literally a special council just to do that one. So, Chris, you're going to have to fork out, mate. Councillor Barlow, please.
Yeah, Councillor Rixon's just said exactly that. I support this. I think that the problem with the 2-hour car parking charges, £2 for the all day in the winter, is it used to clog up our car parks, and the people would use it, the actual people that worked in the shops rather than the shoppers. So I support the idea of this. Look, we're not going to please all the people all the time, but I think this is the right sort of way to do it, and a simpler way for the car parks to be done, rather than us setting. We were talking about other options, but I think this is a good way of doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Matt Hall, please.
Thank you, Leader. I've rewritten my spiel here so many times because this is out of a sense of frustration, but I'm trying to be helpful. You know, all too often recently, this council, despite the hard work of its officers and its members, have not been portrayed very well in the press and on social media. You know, we cannot control the financial constraints the government forced down on us. We are not necessarily in control of the timescales, but we are and can be in control of the narrative. And I just feel that with some of these reports like this one, which can be read by the public in so many ways that we don't mean, we need to really be on top of the comms on this so that people don't see it as another attack on their household income or attacks on business. So I suppose what I'm really asking is, and I really hope that we've got the comms really set up for this, that the comms has been seen by you guys and ladies before it goes out, that hopefully this goes out tonight, the comms, so that we are leading the narrative, not trying to react to the narrative. I'm sorry, I'm just so tired of the hard work that this council puts in being run down, and I just want to try to help us to get a way of getting across to the public what we're doing, why we're doing, what we're being forced to. You know, so that if we change prices, we're doing it because it will help, because it will provide, it will do this, it will do that. It's in response to this. This will directly save services. We've got to start selling the positives of what we're trying to do so that we don't find that this is another agenda item where we just end up, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons in the local press or on social media. We need to change. Thank you.
So, Councillor Hall, you'll be aware I agree with every syllable of what you just said, and I raised this earlier in the week, and I was very pleased at around midday today to receive a draft press statement that is ready to go as soon as this is done. And we need to do that in future. Always, we need to anticipate what council is deciding, what cabinet is deciding, and we do need to be proactive. Social media has got uglier. And am I wise to say this? Yeah, I'm going to say it. Unfortunately, the presence of reform across the country, but in Devonshire, means that people are commenting and inflaming, and it's not obvious exactly who they are sometimes. And as a council, we just have to be aware that that is there now. The political discourse on social media has got a bit uglier. So the first line of attack for us, the first line of defence has got to be positive, putting forward our own thing. And doubtless some wiseacre will try and criticise this. I'm very grateful to what Councillor Barlow said, actually. I think I might ask for his quote to be added to the press draft press release. In fact, you know, I'll shoot a bit of video with Ian later, maybe. But no, it's a point well made, and I'm really glad the officers have definitely got it covered this time, just to reassure you. Councillor Roy Collins, please. Roy Collins.
Thank you, Chair.
Yesterday I went to Honiton. We had the hot penny ceremony, and I only saw one farmer in the town. One farmer, that was all. Tuesdays was always market day. We had a lovely livestock market in Honiton, but some silly fools on East Devon Council went and sold it. It was sold off. It was a borough council thing, really. And they sold it off, so there's no livestock market. There's only one farmer other than myself in the town. Now, you used to see that the town used to be full of farmers and country people on a Tuesday. Not there. And I was told of 3 more shops that are going to shut. They can't afford to stay open any longer. They're shutting. We've lost all our banks now, or NatWest is soon going to shut. We'll only have Lloyd's left. People are desperate to be able to come to town. They don't want to be paying more car parking charges. You'll just drive away the few people that are coming. We lost the co-op in Honiton. The co-op had a cash machine there. Lots of people used to go down and use that machine when the co-op was shut. That was taken away. And this will just finally kill the town if you increase charges for Honiton. Please keep them the same, especially in the winter. You've allowed, this council has allowed many supermarkets to be built. You've got them here on Heath Park. They shouldn't have been. When Heath Park was built, they always said there would be no retail. You've let all these retail outlets come here, and that has killed the town centre, the streets, the shops and businesses. I'm sorry, I'm so disappointed with this. Thank you.
No, thanks, Roy, and that's been heard, and I'm not going to push back on it. So thank you for the points you've made. Anybody else from outside of Cabinet? If not Cabinet, anybody wish to speak on this? Councillor Young, please.
Yeah, originally the £2 charge was a trial to see if it worked. That trial's gone on for 9 years, and we shouldn't be forgetting our wonderful permits that we offer, which are fantastic value. And a lot of people, it was cheaper for a lot of people to pay £2 rather than have a permit during the winter. So hopefully this will, people will realise the benefit of the permit and then transfer to that. So it would be cheap for people to visit the town with their residential permits. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good points, Councillor Young. Councillor Ledger to propose?
Can I second, please, Chair?
Yes. Oh, because Sam was proposing, wasn't he? Yes. Okay. In which case, let us go to a vote on that. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. Nobody against, nobody abstained. Thank you. Okay, we now unbelievably go to Councillor Hawkins again for agenda item 11, the financial outturn for 2024 and 25, which is on pages 57 to 75 of your agendas. So, Councillor Hawkins, please.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. 24-25 was positive. Q1 is looking like a positive outcome. Obviously, will help us going forward. If anyone's got any technical questions, John's over there. Thanks, John.
Excellent. Anybody from outside Cabinet? Whoever's remaining? No. Anybody from inside Cabinet? Councillor Councillor Hayward, and then Councillor Ledger.
Thank you. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Simon. Just one question. Sorry. It's just a technical explanation, I'm sure, that I just couldn't reconcile when I was reading it. On page 71, it relates to the HRA. There's the HRA revenue account borrowing figure, and it ended 24-25 with a closing figure of 92, which was both externally funded PWLB and internally funded in the general fund of 14, and combined that became 92, and then carried forward to the opening position in 25-26, the 92 is fully funded under PWLB. Is that just standard practice that we, at the end of every year, we essentially just transfer that internal borrowing into an external borrowing, which is why it appears in that column there? Sorry to put you on the spot.
John, yes, please, if you'd like to.
Apologies, I'm still Richard on here. Sorry, Debbie. Yeah, just in terms of its presentational, so in terms of the Treasury Management strategy statement, we make that decision as to whether externalised or internal borrowing. The current position is we are taking that decision to internally borrow because it's cheaper. We keep an eye on the rates. As soon as they get to a certain point, a trigger point, we will externalise that. That hasn't happened yet, but in terms of it's just a presentational issue in terms of that table. That's all.
Thank you very much indeed for that clarification. Thank you. Sorry to have raised it out in the meeting without notice.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillor Ledger.
I'm going to focus on the HRA, as probably everyone would hope I would. I just need to make the point that what a difference a year makes, and I really need to put it on record, my thanks to officers throughout housing and in the finance team, as well as members of the HRB for the additional scrutiny. But you look at the healthy position that the HRA is now in. You'll see tomorrow that we've got a 30-year business plan coming through to the HRB that will hopefully be approved. But it's really heartwarming, really, to see the difference of a year and the tireless work of officers to get us to that position.
Thank you, Councillor Ledger. And again, something crucial that we communicate after tomorrow's meeting as well. I know there are draft press releases out for that. Hopefully, you may have a chance to say something similar yourself again tomorrow and actually get picked up as a live quote. I think that is important. Thank you very much. Councillor Olive.
Thank you, Chair. Just really briefly and genuinely, I wanted to say how nice it is to have a report with some colour in it. It's so much easier to read. Maybe that comes across a bit flippantly, but genuinely, thank you.
No. Slightly insanely, but no, not at all. And it's lovely to see a bit of colour. With my black and white printer, it makes no difference whatsoever, unfortunately. So you young people with your colour printers. Did I hear a proposal from Sam? I think so.
I'm sure I said something like
yes,
that.
I'm sure you would have done. And Councillor Hayward to second. So all those, well, hang on, what are we doing? Are we noting? Is that what we're actually doing on this? Can anybody remember? Let's go up to the recommendations. Considers, recommends. Yeah, okay, we should take a vote on that. All those in favour of the recommendations 1 through 3, thank you very much. That's carried. Nobody has abstained or voted against. Excellent. We now go to agenda item 12, which is a risk report for quarter 1, 25-26, pages 76 to 78. And we come to Melanie Wellman, our Director of Governance. Over to you, please, Mel.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, Jo Avery unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, but she's done all the hard work on this report. I'll be really brief. This is the first report for the first quarter of 25-26. It's in a new format, so we would appreciate any feedback members have in terms of the format. It provides a link to our strategic risks, and more than happy to try and answer any questions that any members may have.
Well, Councillor Olive will enjoy with his crayon looking at the yellow and the green there, I think, but perhaps he'd like a few more colours, perhaps feedback that back to Jo. But thank you, Mel, for covering for Jo. Anybody outside of Cabinet wish to, So, yeah, Councillor Hawkins, please.
Thanks. It was just to reflect, obviously, this has been through A&G that have recommended it. They're going to look away at the detail, but we're worried about the strategic view, so we're just happy to recommend the approval of this report.
Thank you, Councillor Ledger to second. Very good. No other comments? All those in favour, please. Nobody abstaining, nobody against. That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mel. We now go to agenda item 13. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Ed, we keep keeping you waiting all the time. Why didn't we do this earlier? So we've got agenda item 13, the Clyst St Mary and Soughton Bishop's Clyst Neighbourhood Plan, first review, examiner's report, presented by Ed Freeman, our Assistant Director, Planning, Strategy and Development Management. Ed, please.
Thank you, Chair. So members may recall I brought this particular neighbourhood plan to you in April, and members agreed the Council's views on the submission version of the plan, which has now gone through the examination process, and we have the examiner's report back on this neighbourhood plan, and it's ready to progress through to referendum if members are happy with what the examiner's recommending. The members may recall the main driver behind this local plan was this allocation for at least 72 new dwellings on the eastern edge of the village, spanning between the A3052 and Bishop's Court Lane. One of the main drivers for that is provision of a link road between the two to prevent rat running through the heart of the village at peak times. And one of the main controversies with this has been that link route, and you'll see in the examiner's report that the examiner's recommending that that route be created as early in the build out of the development, but be closed to vehicular traffic at the point at which there's a junction with Bishop's Court Lane, until such time further work has been undertaken on the second new community and the local plan to determine whether other proposals, such as the second new community, would create a link between the A3052 and the A30, which would negate the need for this to address that issue. But that the route in this development be created in such a way that it can easily be opened up to vehicular traffic in the future, should that be necessary once that further work's been completed. In the meantime, it will create an attractive route for pedestrians and cyclists to link through into the Clyst Valley Regional Park and achieve some of our aspirations in terms of improving connectivity through that area and the safety of pedestrians and cyclists moving through that area. There's various other suggestions and alterations to the policies in the plan, but with the purpose of achieving the objectives of the plan and compliance with the local plan and the NPPF. And all of these have been through the neighbourhood planning group, who are in broad support of these changes. So the recommendations as they stand are that Cabinet are asked to endorse the examiner's recommendations, that a referendum version of the plan be produced based on those recommendations and taken through the referendum process, and that Cabinet congratulate Bishop's Clyst Parish Council and the neighbourhood plan steering group on all their hard work to date. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Ed. I'm going to come to the ward member first, Councillor Mike Howe.
Thank you very much. And first off, I'd like to start by thanking my neighbourhood plan team who put this together in troublesome and frustrating circumstances, but achieved it and has, in the most part, conformed with our emerging local plan, so it will actually stand weight. And I hope you do endorse this today, because again, it will give us more weight we can play to this in the planning balance that is currently going through applications in the village. Following that, yes, I think Mr. Freeman has summed it up very well. We are somewhat frustrated with Devon Highways. What's new, anyone could say. You know, they don't want to cut a rat run, or to start a rat run, but we're trying to divert a rat run. It's a hilarious situation. We know it happens and it's more dangerous than the current route, but they don't want to allow a more direct and easier route. You sit there and do wonder some days, but nevertheless, we've got a happy compromise that allows us to develop it at the developer's expense, and hopefully we'll be able to convince the Highways Authority in the future of the common sense approach of opening it to traffic. So I endorse this hopefully, and can I have your full support in sending a good, clear message forward to examination. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so I suppose the question might be, looking at the Devon County Highways thing, is that it's said often, we hear it often, that it's difficult, you know, to get stuff out, and they may say similar or whatever. But I mean, have you over the time as a respected ward councillor had a chance to lobby the division members of council over this, or has that not been productive?
Incessantly. We've had full discussions with Devon Highways and everything else. And broadly, up until relatively recently, they were supportive of what we were achieving. You know, the current rat run that is used is through narrow village streets, 90-degree bends, and everything else. And we get horse boxes, tractor trailers, full Arctics trying to achieve this down this narrow lane with no footpaths or anything else. So we considered just cutting off the bad part of that lane and giving a straight access. And then Devon Highway say they don't want it, they'd rather it goes to the village, and we're all bemused, to put it mildly. But this, as a neighbourhood plan, has to go forward. It delivers what we hope to achieve at this stage and gives us the chance to fulfil the full ambition in the near future.
Thank you very much for that, Mike. So then, anybody else from outside of Cabinet, coming inside Cabinet? Councillor Olive, please.
Thank you, Chair. I share Councillor Howell's frustrations with how Devon Highways have handled this particular issue. However, otherwise, I broadly agree with Councillor Howell. Mr. Freeman has summed up the case well, and I'm happy to propose the recommendations as shown, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jackson, please.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Young.
I was going to second it, and I'm really pleased that this has come forward because it will provide a route for the Cliffs Valley multi-use trail. So it's been a long time coming. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. Anybody else wish to speak? No, in which case let's go to vote. All those in favour, please. Thank you. That's nobody against and nobody abstains, so that is carried. Thank you, Ed. Sorry to keep you waiting. We'll try and rejig it next time. I say that every time, don't I? But let's, just ask. Right, okay, brilliant. Thank you. We now go on to agenda item 14, which is recommendations from the Strategic Planning Committee. And I was going to come to the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee, Councillor Olive. He's got his hand up already.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I thought I had raised this at briefing, but legally Cabinet can't approve the local development scheme. It's in the Constitution under Article 4 on the full council, Part 4.7. There's a table there, and the local development scheme is very clearly a decision that's reserved to full council by law. I'm happy to propose a recommendation that we recommend it to council to be adopted, but would just highlight that we can't adopt the revised local development scheme this evening. On that note, the LDS is effectively a glorified Gantt chart. We've had it a number of times recently because government has required it to. Sorry, Ed, am I stealing your thunder? So I'm happy to propose a recommendation that we send it to council for with a recommendation to adopt it.
I'd just like to take some advice from Mel first on that, whether that's an appropriate course of action.
Yes, yes, it is, Leader. I hadn't picked, well, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Ledger, I'm sort of almost psychically guessing what you're going to say next.
Can I second, please?
Yes, you may. Now, anybody else wish to vehemently object or talk on that, or Councillor Hayward?
Only that I'm going to use the word glorified Gantt chart far more in all my future council business hereafter, because it's fantastic. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, in which case we've had a proposer, a second. All those in favour, please. Nobody's voted against or abstained. That is carried. Thank you very much, and thank you, Todd. We now go to agenda item 15, and that's yep. So that brings the public section of our meeting to an end. Thank you, everybody here, for taking part. I'm now going to ask the Vice Chair to formally move us into private session, please.
Thank you, Chair. I move that under Section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public, including the press, be excluded from the meeting as exempt information of the description set out on the agenda is likely to be disclosed. And on balance, the public interest is in discussing this item in private session, otherwise known as Part B. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Olive, thank you. May I ask for a vote? All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Thank you, Chair.